What a great way to start the life.
He's dying.
I've been sick for a couple of weeks, and so I just got the leftover cough. You know, I have to try to get rid of it. It takes forever.
Bronchitis.
So, there's anybody out there yet? Guess not.
We can get started anyway.
Yeah. Oh, there's one. Hi.
Hello.
All right, can you see us okay? Can you hear us all right? Let us know. It's always good to have at least one person there, so tell us if they hear us.
Go ahead. Give us a little something. I'm pulling up the stuff right now.
Pulling up the stuff.
Pulling up the stuff.
Hope everybody had a good Halloween. United States, we had Halloween this last weekend. It was fun to see all the grandkids come. And
I'll have to say it was a little leaner, a little bit less children.
yeah, we had fewer. We got kind of an older neighborhood, so we're getting more young couples and kids moving in, but it's not enough now to attract everybody. You know?
It'll come back, though, eventually.
I think so.
Everything kind of goes in a cycle, right?
Yeah. What's he saying there?
Loud and clear in Maryland.
All right. Great.
That was Rich.
Sorry we were a little late getting the announcement that we're having the Facebook Live. We've been a little distracted. We've, I've been sick, and then Tegan, who does that, has been a little busy because she's playing single mom.
Yeah.
Her husband's got a job with Sky West, and so he's doing his training to learn how to fly the planes. So, and he's gone all the time for, it's like going to be 2 months. So she's doing it all by herself, and so she's over here, and it just gets a little hectic. So welcome. Thanks for joining us. I want to remind you about Roots Tech. You know, it's coming up. It's time to register and get in there. And I think it's the last week of February, first week of March, kind of crosses in that time frame. So I'd encourage you to come and come see us all. I'll be there, and so I'm presenting.
Sure. Just real quickly, Betty asked if we're streaming on YouTube. The answer is we actually download this video typically and upload it on the YouTube following. We don't stream on YouTube just because the user base right now is on Facebook. So
Yeah.
most of the videos are available on YouTube for watch if you'd like, but we don't stream on there, if that makes sense. No live streams.
Yeah. We live stream on Facebook, and then when we're done, within 24 hours, we put it over on YouTube so anybody can get to it.
And the answer to that question is no, Rob. It will not get answered because the question was from last week. So I think you may have submitted it. I think I see one right here from Rob. Came across a great uncle recently who I know was never married. Does that sound right? Let us know if that sounds right.
Oh, I think he was asking the same question again or something.
Well, you mentioned if I asked one on the comment section last time, will it get asked this time? And sometimes we pick them up, sometimes we miss some. So if you don't see it, always put it on our list. Oh, Rob says that's something.
Okay.
We're good. Okay. So let's get started.
All right, let's go ahead and get started.
So W. Carroll asks, from time to time I hear that so many additional hints have been added to Family Tree. When I'm searching a collection, I would like to know whether it has been scanned to create hints. Are such collections marked somewhere as scanned? If so, how can I tell? If not, should such a column be added to the list of the currently 2,263 historical record collections?
I'm not sure what you mean by scanned.
I think what she's saying is if a batch has been added in, a collection has been added in, has the system already taken a look at all those files and created hinting for them?
Yeah. So what we do is every month. So right now there's a little bit of a manual process that happens every month. Every month, we're doing it about every month. We take all the records that have been added to FamilySearch collections within that prior month, and we load them up into our hinting engine, and we let it do a bunch of analysis. Usually takes us about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to prepare a new set of hints. And because we load several hundred million in each time we do it. This last time I think we added somewhere around 180 million new hints. And so we load it into the system. We do some testing to make sure it's doing proper matches and hinting that we think is reasonable quality. And then we release it. And that's when you see a new set of hints. We take everything that's in the collection, but that there's always things releasing every week or so in the collections, either additions to collections or new collections. And so we don't really show anywhere whether that particular record is in the hinting system. What we do show is when you do a search and you look at the search results, you'll see 3 symbols off to the side. One is a camera that says we have an image, one's an index looking thing that says we have an index, and one is a little tree, a little 3-person tree. If you see the 3-person tree, that's telling you that that record has already been attached to somebody in Family Tree.
And that usually means that the
hinting system that means that almost 90% of the records now are getting attached via hinting.
Okay.
So not all of them, but most of them.
Is there any existing way for a record that hasn't been attached to somebody for us to know if that record's been scanned?
Well, scanned,
or I guess processed. Let's change the word for you. Processed.
It depends on what you mean. If it's
she's asking, so
is it in the hinting system?
Yeah, well, she's asking. The follow-up question was, if you've got all these files in there, is there any way to tell if it has been through the hinting system?
Yeah, no, we don't show that.
Okay.
That's what I was saying.
Okay.
We don't identify the records in the hint system.
Okay.
We just identify whether it's been attached or not attached.
So there you go. So you probably get about 90% of them, you said?
About 90% of the sources that created from indexes or image are coming through hints. So, and then each month, we pick up all the ones that haven't already been in the hint system and we put them in the hint system. So,
did you ever see adding a column that would?
I'm not sure what people would do. With
that information.
Yeah. So there's a column that says it's been hinted. Okay. So what do you do? Does that mean you're going to try to create a person that works it, or
maybe pass over it and try to find one that hasn't been hinted? I don't know.
If it hasn't been, I don't know.
It's interesting. So maybe there's a follow-up question there if you have anything.
Follow-up question on, are you talking about how would you use that information? What would you do differently because it says, hey, this hasn't been in the hint engine?
Sure. Separately, she says, I would love to see a column added to the list of historical record collections of the number of images in the collection. When only a few of the many images have been indexed, it would be helpful to see the number of images in it. For example, the Dominican Republic Civil Registration, 1801 to 2010, has only 513, half a million records, we'll just round. Half a million records indexed, but it has 3.4 million images.
Yeah, we show you that, but not in the search results. We show that in browse images, so browse collection. So if you go to the search screen on the site, so click search, and then it comes up with a search that you normally enter in names and stuff. Just scroll to the bottom, and I think on the bottom right, it'll have browse collections. When you click browse collections, you'll be sent to another page, lists all the collections, it lists all of the images and all the indexes, the count. And you can go in and filter. You can say, what was it, Dominican, or you can type Dominican, and it'll filter the list and only records that have to do with have Dominican in the title. Then it'll show you how many records and how many images. So that's where we have that information.
Sure.
Over in the image collection.
Just to quickly answer, Betty, we were discussing the records that have been digitized. So it's not necessarily microfilmed, because after a record's microfilmed, then it's digitized. Hi, buddy. Put into the system, and then we were discussing how it's then added to the hinting system, where a computer analyzes it to see how it matches up. So we're not necessarily talking about microfilm. We're talking more about digital records.
Yeah, we're talking about things that have already been digitized,
correct,
captured by a camera and an image created, and then we index it, or we index it.
Yeah.
So some things are just indexes, some things are indexes and images, and some things are just images waiting to be indexed. So.
Okay, well, as I was just trying to read this, Curtis. Love to use the unindexed digitized image. I've found a lot of great things.
Yeah. You can go browse these collections and wander around in them, and there's really a lot of good information there. Mm-hmm. We're working on updating the systems so that we can get images to you quicker and let you help us index them on the fly. We want to try to do something like that.
Okay. Okay. Sandy doesn't have a question, but she just wanted to say she teaches a genealogy class at a local library. Shared this with, two of my students who are on Facebook. She loves the informational or informal informational portal.
Okay, good. Well, thank you.
So we're glad to hear that. Our next question comes from Beverly Odom. She asks, in Family Tree, is there a way to print a family group sheet without ordinances to be given to non-member family members?
Yes. Let me show you. Let me tell you how to do that.
It's a great question.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to draw up how you do it. I'll draw for a minute here.
Should I give him an explanation?
No, I'll bring it up. Can't go that fast.
Take your time. Take your time. We got to let the artist work. You know, he's got to channel his inner Rembrandt.
Yeah.
He's like Van Gogh with an expo. I laugh too much at my own jokes.
Okay. So you asked, how do I print family group sheets? You can also do pedigree charts, things like that, with LDS ordinances. If you're a member, by default, it prints LDS ordinances. But if you want to turn that off, what you do is you do the following. So I did a little crude drawing here. If you go to FamilySearch.org, I guess I should put that up here.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to kind of do a flow chart, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And then it has like a tree. So here's the website, believe it or not. And here's FamilySearch.org and the tree menu over here.
So you imagine this is the top of your screen.
Yeah, top of your screen. And over on the far right, there's your name. And it has a little drop-down arrow. You click that drop-down arrow, you want to click Settings, okay? Everybody has it. This is where we keep your name, your username, your password.
LDS ID.
Just password, all the settings you have. And you'll go to a page here, and the page you want to choose is called Preferences. So you click Preferences, and on that screen, there's a setting called Show LDS, I think it says Temple or something like that. And that is checked by default if you're a member. So you just go in there, uncheck that, and when you uncheck that, then the ordinances will disappear from your screen. And so all your screens won't have ordinances on it. And then anytime you go to the person page and you say print family group sheet, it'll print it without ordinances. It won't even have I think it doesn't even have fields for ordinances. It just has a basic family group sheet that without little cells to put in ordinance.
Okay.
And so that's what I do. You can and you can do fam, you can do the pedigree chart, you can do all that kind of stuff, and it'll leave off all the ordinances. That's a good way to print out things and share it with family members that may not be LDS. Or
maybe if you're going to a fair or something.
Yeah, sometimes I turn that off if I'm doing a demonstration and the audience that I'm demonstrating to is not interested in LDS stuff.
Not interested in the ordinances portion. Just
more in the genealogy and stuff. So I'll go in there and turn that off, and then I can do my presentation, and there's no ordinance show up, and I can print charts and do all that stuff. Okay, so that's how you turn that off. So it'll do that.
Very handy. So to summarize, it would be at the top under your name, click Settings, then Preferences, and then uncheck. I think it says Show LDS ordinances
or something like that. Okay. You'll recognize it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then you'll want to go turn it back on later if you all of a sudden you're like, hey, I don't see no ordinances. Now I gotta go check it and make sure I turned it back on.
Right. Happens. Okay, so Matthias T says, what is the best way to quickly add a source found outside of FamilySearch to a person page? Can you easily add that source to more than, I'm going to say, a person? Because I think you missed something there.
Yeah, well, you need to, let me explain how sources work. So sources are just a piece of data that has a URL, a citation, excuse me.
Yeah. No jargon.
Has a title, has a URL, has a citation, and notes. Okay, so a source, all it is a piece of data in a database that has a title, a URL, a citation, and a note. Okay, so you can create sources in several different places. One place you can create a source is on a person page. So if you're on the person, and here they are here, And down here over the sources section, boy, I can't write upside down.
That's all right. Just take your time.
Sources section.
Fix it. Make sure it's right there.
That looks like some foreign language.
Yeah, I know. You picked up something else at work today or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we worry about him.
You go to a person page, and under the sources section, you can click create source, for instance. That's probably what you're doing. And then so you're putting a source from someplace else. You either, screenshot that page or something if you want to upload the memory.
Add a photograph.
Or a photograph or something. Or you have it on another page, you grab the URL from the other site, and you create a source and you paste it into the URL. Then you put in a title and a citation and notes. And then you save that. And then if you did it through here, it'll save it and it will also attach it to this person. But also when you create a source, it puts it in your source box. In source box, remember I had Ron with a little triangle thing just a minute ago. I gotta blow my nose. It's my sickness.
He's recovering.
Yeah.
He's recovering. He's doing well, but we're recovering.
Last day of antibiotics.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember the settings thing where we had Ron up here and a little arrow, and you said settings to turn off the temple stuff? Well, underneath that same box is source box. If you go to source box, you will see this source you created.
Any source you create.
Every source you create, unless you have checked the box that says don't put it in my source box.
Right.
Okay? Now you can open that source and you can attach that source from your source box to anybody. And you can attach the same source to multiple people. There's not a problem with that. Now, you need to understand. Let me just explain a little bit. I'll go one more level. Okay, so there's basically what you do. But if you have a source and you attach it to person 1, same source to person 2, same source to person 3, sometimes this happens where people get confused. So if I take a source and I attach it to 3 different people, and then let's say I want to change the title for the source here. So I click edit and I go over here and I edit the title. Well, that title changes for all 3 because that same exact source is attached to 3 people. So don't get confused. That's actually a powerful thing. So if you fix the source, it's fixed in 3 places.
It cuts down your work.
Cuts down the work. The whole intent was to do that. Sometimes that confuses people because they say, well, I want to have this title say it's for P3 and this title say it's for P2. Well, if you want to do that, you got to have a multiple source, one for each of the people.
Is there an easy way to duplicate these sources?
There is. Inside your source box. So your source box looks like this. When you bring up your source box, you see folders on this side. So you can have folders inside your source box. And over on this side has a list of all your sources. And you can take your sources and put them in folders, or you can, on the person page, let me show you that one. And it had create down here. It also had attach. So you could click attach in the source section and say from source box, and it'll go over here and you pick the sources you want to add to that person. Then you say attach and it'll put them over here. And if you're in here and you want to duplicate one, because let's say you want to put that source on 2 places but change the title, there's little selection boxes here. You can check it and say duplicate, and it'll create another one that's the exact duplicate. I think it says copy of, and then you just edit the title and attach that. Now, there is a partner program out there that people use, and I may need help from the community. I can't really remember what it's called. I think it's called Record Seek. It's a third-party partner, and what Record Seek does is they have a plug-in that you plug into your browser, and then when you go out and you wander around in other websites and you find I want this page as a source, you can just click their plugin, and it'll actually go create a source for you, stuffing in the URL and all of that, and letting you just type in the title, and then you can attach it to your person. So there's been some trouble with Record Seek because they're struggling right now. Sometimes it's not working, sometimes it is, but I think there's plenty of people who use that kind of capability. I hope I explained it okay. You create three kinds of sources. There's FamilySearch source, a person's user source, and that user source can come from, you can have a URL or you can have a memory. So if you have a source image, just upload it to memories and then create a source, and you can take any memory and put it inside of a source. So if you have the birth certificate, just take a picture of it, upload it, create the source, and attach it to whoever you want to attach it to. Okay? So there you go. Good question. Yes, you can create sources manually. You don't have to use the quick attach to do that and hinting to do that. You can manually do that all you want. And matter of fact, we've only had quick attach stuff for like a year and a half.
Sure.
And the first few years before that, it was all manually did by hand.
Right. So in a nutshell, you can do that.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. On to the next one. Well, just real quick, actually. Matthias says he appreciates how much you reach out to users. He says you're a great resource. Appreciate what you do. Barb asks, sometimes when you change or update information on the PID, you get the message, quote, one or more person is watching this PID, and if any changes are made, they will be notified. I'd like to be able to contact them, but there's no contact information for them. For example, yesterday I found out that my ancestor was married to a man who has a death date, no source, of 1893. His first wife died in 1885, but I found him and my ancestor in the 1900 U.S. Census. I also found a marriage document of the two of them dated for 1896. And then I found his second wife, my relative, is a widow in 1930 census with his son and grandkids. I wish I could contact the person who is watching the original person and show him or her all my sources and let her know I'm not just some flighty PID record.
Well, yeah, we have a desire to show the watchers and let you be able to send a message to the watchers. We haven't got around to it. It is on our list of things to do. But there's usually a person who is watching is also someone who contributed to that person. So if they put in a spouse, if you have a spouse in there you're confused about or you feel like is a little odd, then you could click on it, see who contributed that spouse or who made that relationship, and send a message to them. We want to be able to show you the watchers, and we do want to be able to allow you to send a message, an internal FamilySearch message, to all the watchers on a person. So you can just send a mail out and say, hey, I found a new record for this person. I've attached it. Go check it out. I think we need to change whatever, such and such, because of this new evidence. And that might be a good way to get conversations started. So I appreciate your desire, and we want to fulfill that. I don't have any time frame when that will happen, but it is on our list, and we've talked about it several times as something we want to do. So it's not going to disappear. It's going to happen eventually.
Well, I mean, because the ultimate goal is communication.
Yeah, collaboration is essential inside of a tree that's openly editable by everybody. You have to be able to communicate to work through the issues.
Yep. Okay. Our next user, it's a username, MJISM.
Okay.
No question. They said, I love that you listen to your users and you're constantly improving.
Oh, thank you.
Pat Payne asks, in memories, why does the circle become so unstable when the tagging process, during the tagging process when you try to reposition the circle? Also, why does it also turn the whole picture blue when you're trying to move it? Sounds like it might be a bug.
Yeah, I'll have to go look at that one. I don't know if I've seen the blue. I think I did see something about that a few days ago. Send me that in an email, and I'll have the guys look at that one.
All right.
It is a little. We're looking at redoing how that's done, so that it's more like cropping things that you do. And it is legit. I mean, it is legit. You kind of click it, and it creates a circle, and you try to drag it around, and it's not really great. and to edit one is a little tricky on clicking right. So we're trying to improve that process. We've gone through a couple of more designs of it, of the new updated version, and doing some testing. I think the new ones will be more helpful. But I'll go check on that one. If it shouldn't be really hard to click on, and it shouldn't be covered in blue, so you can't really see stuff. So I'll go send that on to my guy who does memories and ask him what's going on here. Check it out and see if this is. Yeah, dig in and see if there's a problem.
Okay. Sandy says, my wife and I are temple and family history consultants in our ward. When we help members sign up for their Ancestry.com accounts, they are able to sign up and establish their accounts just fine. When they go to Ancestry.com and try to have Ancestry sign into FamilySearch using the white FamilySearch icon, it attempts to sign in, the screen flashes but goes back to the white icon and doesn't connect. This is only happening on newly signed up members. My wife's and mine are working just fine. Support says they, quote, know about this problem, but this is going on the 4th week since we reported. Do you know about this and if a solution is coming? We love this feature and ability.
Yeah, I know I've heard of it.
It's on the radar.
People have told me this one. It's not our problem. It's Ancestry.com's problem.
Sure.
So we've been communicating with Ancestry. Sometimes they have other priorities, so they may not fix it right away.
Sure.
I recommend calling Ancestry and saying, hey, we can't log into FamilySearch.
Right. Can
you fix it? And a bunch of people call them, and maybe that will help get them to do it quicker.
Sure.
But I will certainly send me that email of that, and then I will forward that on to the partner group just to push them a little harder and go call Ancestry again and see if we can't get this fixed.
Okay.
But yeah, support's been hearing it too, and it does seem to be new kind of stuff. Okay.
Okay, Rob, here's your question, Rob. Came across a great uncle recently who I know was never married. He showed 2 spouses in FamilySearch, both represented by a question mark. No birth, death, or marriage dates before either. I severed both relationships. There was no way to delete the person for either question mark. Is there a way to remove these people from the database? All that info showed as being put in my FamilySearch, not a user.
Right. So the people that have a name of question mark, all of those are artifacts of the old new FamilySearch system that was started in 2007. We populated the family tree database by pulling in all of the 4-generation sheets that were contributed by LDS members, the ancestral file, for those who are familiar with that, and the personal resource file that people had donated and shared their GEDCOM files with us. We put all of them into Family Tree and then ran a bunch of algorithms for a year or two, multiple times, to merge them all together. And the prior system allowed you to create people without a name. Yeah.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah. So this person had a spouse with no name, and that's probably because the GEDCOM file said they were married, or said that they created a ghost spouse, and then when we imported in, we created that spouse. But when we severed ourselves from the old system and went strictly Family Tree, I said the rule for Family Tree is you have to have a name, you have to have sex, and you have to have whether they're alive or dead as a minimum. And so in order to keep the data consistent, when we imported those people from the old system into the new Family Tree system, if they didn't have a name, then we put a question mark as their name. The reason we would put a question mark is because it's universal. It's the same symbol in all languages. That means, yeah,
it's one of those.
Yeah, so we made it a question mark. So you shouldn't feel at least a bit guilty about severing those relationships if they weren't married.
Is there any way for him to delete the record?
Yeah, unfortunately, because there's multiple contributors most likely on that thing, it would be more than FamilySearch. The reason why it says FamilySearch is when we migrated data from one database to another database, it's extremely difficult in the old system to go find the name of all the contributors.
Okay.
And it would have taken us 3.5 years to migrate the data over into Family Tree if we went and looked at all the contributors. Well, that's unrealistic, right? there'd be so many people adding to the tree, we couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
So the decision was made to just migrate it, and we lose the knowledge of the person who contributed, except for,
up to that point.
Except for vitals, name, birth, death, stuff like that, if it was known. And if it wasn't known, then there should have been a contributor name there. If you wanted to try to contact them, they may not have been contacted. But if it only says FamilySearch, that just means FamilySearch is the one who migrated it into the new system.
Perfect.
But yeah, there's no way to delete it. You could contact support if you feel like it. You could contact support with a support case and say, hey, this guy was never married, but he had a spouse with a question mark. Could you delete the spouse out of the database?
And they'll review it. And
they'll look at it and go, kick it. Because there's nothing in there. All it's going to say is question mark and deceased.
Sure.
So it's not really any valuable data there.
Okay. Well, so we're running low on our Q&A form. There are a couple questions in the comment section there. And I want to let people know in the comment section, we'll try and get to those too today. I think we'll have time.
Yeah, since we didn't get our notification out earlier, we didn't get a whole bunch of questions. So
sure. So
we're getting through the ones we had left over from last time. And
so there's 2 more questions, and then we can jump into answering some comments on there. So Taylor and Lynn and Betty, I hope that you can be patient and wait with us. I know that we can probably get to some of those. The next question from Earl says, I'm entering information on my living first cousins and family tree. What happens to that info when we record a death date? Do they automatically jump to the public family tree? Can you merge 2 living people if they're duplicate? After 110 years, do the living people become part of the public tree? So let's start with what happens when we record a death date?
Yeah,
do they automatically jump to public?
Yes, when you have into your private areas you're living, when you mark that person deceased, they automatically become publicly viewable.
Okay.
So they're automatically in the publicly viewable space.
Can you merge 2 living people if duplicate?
We have the capability to do that. We have not turned it on. We will be turning it on because we want to. There are plenty of cases where people end up having duplicates of living inside of their area.
Like me being
private area.
Having 2 duplicates of you? Or?
No, I wouldn't see the 2 duplicates.
No, but
you
I
see
see
yours and I see mine, but you don't see mine, so you only see one. No, this is a case where so let me just make sure that people aren't interpreting like what you're thinking.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question, because I want to make sure that it's clear.
Let me draw a picture.
Got to be the computer nerd whisperer.
Okay. So here's living areas, living places where living exists. And each user that has an account gets a living area because you're living, because you created the account. And it's we're trying to protect your identity. And so there's a living version of you right here. So if this is me logged in, I've got a living version of me. Nobody can see it in the entire system except for me.
It's private.
It's private. And then, maybe I have my mother here, and my mother is living. But if she dies and I mark her deceased, then this living person here moves up to here. We still have that relationship, right? She's still my mother. But now she's in the dead space. So in the dead area, everybody can see it. They can't see this relationship because that relationship connects the living to the dead, and we can't show that relationship because it exposes your living. Okay? So now you can obviously merge together people in the dead space. So what my son was talking about is, let's say over here is my son, David. That's my brother. My son, Jarrett. And there's also over here on this side, because I have Jarrett in my living area, I also have a copy of Jarrett here. Right? So here's Jarrett, and here's Jarrett. And only I can see this Jarrett, and only he can see that one. And I can't merge that one with this one because I'm crossing into 2 different living areas. And that's not allowed. because we don't want to expose Jarrett to, some sort of exposure that gets his
Potential
identity
identity theft.
theft and his information.
Sure.
So you cannot merge that one to that one. But let's say that, so this was the question I was answering. Let's say that through some ways of doing stuff, I end up creating.
Can you hold the light here?
I don't know.
You need a hand there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I end up creating 2 copies of my spouse. A green one and a red one. Let's see if you can see that.
No, you can see the green. Let us know if it's not clear.
Red's not very red.
Kind of a pink.
So if I created a green wife and a red wife, and they're actually the same wife, our desire is for you to be able to merge those 2 together. Okay. Let's see here.
Get the blue. Oh man, Expo marker cleanup time.
Okay. So that's kind of tiny, but hopefully you can see that. If I have 2 copies of my wife, our desire is for you to be able to merge those 2 copies together within your living area, and then you end up with 1. So that's what we want to do. That's what we're going to allow, and that's the thing we've got in our
Working
plans.
Okay.
Yeah, there's cases where that can happen, and you want to clean it up, and sometimes you don't want to choose one or the other. You just want to merge them together. But we're not going to allow you to do that across 2 sets of living. So for those of you who are trying to do that in order to eliminate duplication of living, sorry, you're not going to be able to do that. You have to wait for shared living, which we can talk about later if we have more time.
Sure.
That's where you have to wait for that. And then you both see the same living in a shared living area. And then, we want you to merge in there too.
Sure. All right.
Okay, what's the next sub-question of that
So
question?
the next sub-question was, after 110 years, did living people become part of the
Yeah, we're not actually doing it right now, but our plans are, yes, we will automatically, it'll probably be every day, but I don't know if it'll be every day. We're going to run a little automated thing in the system at some time in the future. We're not doing it yet. That will go around in all of these living areas and see if anybody's greater than 110-year rule. And if it's an active account, we'll probably send you a message and say, hey, you got somebody in here that's more than 110 years old.
Are they dead?
Are they deceased? Mark them. If you don't mark them, we'll automatically make them deceased.
Hey, we don't judge. If people are super centenarians, then we don't mind.
Yeah.
We like it when people live a long, healthy life.
So, but yeah, our intent is to do that. Because there's lots of good data inside of this living area. People have done a good job putting in data and information and memories and all that kind of stuff. And we don't want to lose that data, and we want to preserve it for future generations. So we'll go harvest that and turn them into, when they're 110, make them deceased. Was there one more? There's 3 questions.
Yeah, I know. He was good. He knew what he was doing.
Sneaky.
Snuck in
All
a
in
couple
the same
there.
sentence.
Yeah, he's good at what he does. The next one's from Sarah Poe. This one I think is actually pretty simple. She says, can you tell me how campaigns work? She's talking about on the main page after login, I see different things advertised than my husband. It's, for example, that I see early missionaries, Relief Society, custom design, all these different things on the homepage. My husband sees occupations, pioneer ones, and a couple that she sees. Can you explain how it differentiates? How does it work? Why does it that she sees something different than her husband?
Oh, because we're trying to find your ancestors in your line, not necessarily your spouse's line. So what we do there for these campaigns is, let's take the early missionary campaign, for example, or pioneer. So we went off and visited with the LDS Church History and said, can you give us a set of pioneers? It's probably not all that ever existed, but all the pioneer companies and the names of the people that were in these pioneer companies. And then we went and searched for those people in Family Tree. So then we found a PID for every one of these pioneers represented in Family Tree. Okay? So it's fairly complex things we're doing here. So we go get the list of all the names and their birth dates and stuff like that from family history, from church history. We take all that data, we go find all the matching people that match those in the tree. Now we have their PIDs, their person IDs. Then what we do is we walk the tree going from each person, so each user that has an account. We walk your tree and find out if that PID is an ancestor of yours, starting at you, and it's direct line up. So that's why you don't see spouses. So you go direct line, your line up, and we walk your tree up, and we may go up and down a little bit, usually up and down a little bit. I think they go 15 generations up or so. And then if they find that PID, then they mark it in a database that says, Ron Tanner has these set of PIDs in his ancestry that are pioneers. Okay? And then what we do is we put all that data into a database. Every user in the system who has pioneer ancestors in the tree, in their line, and then we put that all in a giant database, and then we make a landing page. That's the term for the website that shows you your pioneer ancestors or your Relief Society ancestors or early missionary ancestors. It's all done the same way. And then we send emails out to everybody in the campaign. Hey, you've got pioneer ancestry.
Yeah, I've seen those.
You've got early ancestors, or you have relatives that did great things in Relief Society.
There's some newly scanned records with your family members.
Yeah, well, I'll do that too, but that's not a campaign. And then when you click the link and come to FamilySearch, you log in. We ask you to log in. When you log in, we know who you are. So then we go to this big database and we look in the database and we say, who are the pioneer ancestors of you who just logged in? And that's the set of people we show on the screen.
Okay. So it's because it's personalized to your own individual genealogy, not necessarily your spouse relationships.
That's right. It's a direct line up and
from you. So
from you.
It's on you to do your part.
That's why you see your stuff and your husband will see different things. Or that's why. So it's a fairly complex process. We got it down, but it's plenty of work. It takes them several months when they're going to do a new one of these ones, like sure. the churches, the missionary ones, or the Relief Society. It takes them several months to prepare that database.
Sure.
Before they're ready to actually
lots of data.
It. But I think it's great. I think it's cool information.
Oh yeah.
It encourages people to come out and check out some of their ancestors, and it's important to come to know your ancestors. There was I might have mentioned it before, but I always, repeat myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've just kind of got used to it. So in the early days of family history, when the family history area got their first computer back in the early 60s. Wow.
And, these big IBM mainframe kind of things, I think.
Worked on reels.
And tape. Mm-hmm. And it was storing genealogies is what we were doing. And one of the technologists, the guy who was over mechanized data processing, that was his title, mechanized data processing. And that person said to one of the president of the church, of the other church, said, "Hey, we could create all of the pedigrees automatically. They probably could do pretty good, but probably not.
The computers can do it.
Yeah, the computer. It's still iffy, by the way. But
sure.
He says we could put all these things together, and nobody, and then they would be all done.
I could see somebody saying that. Ambitious.
And it's still. I get people, engineers, telling me we could do it now too. I think we could do a better job now than they did back then. But the point is that the president of the church responded and says, doesn't matter if all of that information is already generated and in the trees. It's still a responsibility of each person to come to know and love their ancestors. And when I read that in the history of the family history department stuff, I pondered that a lot to figure out why that would be. And I think I know why. And I think those who do some genealogies understand why too. It's because you learn something about your ancestor. When you do, you have a connection to that ancestor. And you learn of their struggles, you learn of their successes, you learn of their failures. And then when you have troubles and you have problems, you think of an ancestor and say, that ancestor was at a much harder time than I do, and they persevered and they got it done and they made it through, so I can do it too. And I think all of that is very important for us to have that connection with our past so that we can be noble, right? And if we have ancestries in the past that aren't so noble, we can say, well, we're not going to do the same thing they did because they messed up when they did that. So I'm going to be better than that. So I just think knowing your ancestors can really change the way you look at your challenges and look at life. Okay, so what else did I have on that question?
There you go.
That was it?
We got some questions in the comments.
Okay.
They're going to be kind of rapid fire.
All right, that's fine.
Just quick answers.
Okay.
So Betty Lou followed up her microfilm question and said, how long between the time a family history missionary scans to when it's added to the browser records collection? How much time is in between those two items?
It varies. It could be months or years, but to be honest with you. And that's part of the process. Remember I said earlier in the show, when we were starting earlier in the Facebook Live, I said we're working to try to change the way that's working, and change the way we process these images, change the way we get that so we can get those images out much quicker. So the processes right now are pretty manual. Although if you're a capture person, if you're a missionary who does camera capture, you know that you're entering more and more data as you're doing your capturing. And so we're looking at ways to take that data and the images that you capture for us and get that right out to the public so they can see those images with that data to help them figure out if this collection may be about their ancestor because it covers the time frame that their ancestor lived there. And we want to be able to speed that up, and we want to be able to get those images out really quick, of course, in days and days, in a few days or weeks instead of months and years in some cases. But so it takes a while because currently we have a whole bunch of prep things we do, creating a collection, grouping them together, reviewing the data, analyzing, make sure we didn't make any mistakes. And that process takes a while, months. And then when you have hundreds of thousands of these things,
there's a bottleneck.
And that's the thing we want to fix.
Okay. Taylor asks, we recently moved, so I've changed my address in the settings, but just wondering, if I submit names now, will those names be recorded in my new ward and not or our previous one, as our records have not been received in our new ward? So let's say she does something. Goes with the records.
If you went in to FamilySearch and you changed your address to your new address, that's what will be printed on the card when you print a card. Your statistical thing where they're counting how many submitters in a ward or something like that, that's purely based on where your membership records are and not the address you put in FamilySearch.
So there's your answer.
So if you put your change of address in FamilySearch and you haven't got your records moved from one ward to another, it's still counting towards the other ward and not your new ward. So just get in there to that clerk, tell them to get your records there. It only takes about 10 seconds to get the records. It's really fast.
Sure.
They just go into the screen in LDS.org. They type in your name and birth date. It comes up on the list and says, "Is this the family?" You go, "Yep." Then boom, shabam, enter in the new address, your new address, and it's there within seconds. So just get in that clerk's office and sit there and say, "I'm going to sit right here till you get it done," and then you're in.
The church still uses microfilm, right?
Yeah, we use microfilm for backup. For backups, we have existing microfilm. We continue to make more microfilm to be able to preserve that microfilm. But our intention is, since we're doing digital capture now, using digital cameras, we're not making we don't do microfilm anymore from those.
Okay.
So from now, forward, from a few years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, going forward, it's all digital.
But there's still a ton of microfilm.
3 million rolls, and we have about 5 years left to get all of the remaining collections digitized.
You can see the fervor needed in the work. Let's put it that way.
But for the missionaries and those who are going out and doing camera captures now, those will never be on microfilm. what we do is we just take the digital image, we make several copies of that digital image.
Store it.
We store it in the Granite Mountain Vault and other places to make sure it's safe, and keep duplicate copies of it, things like that. And then we back it up on tape systems and other systems in order to make sure we have several copies so we never lose it.
Okay. Lynette asked, is there a way to mark if the person has passed without spouse or children? So if a person dies, they aren't married, they don't have children,
Yeah,
way to mark that?
we don't have a way to do that, but it's been requested a lot. We want to do that. We checked with the Chief Genealogical Office, and they said, yeah, that's a good thing to do. So we will do that. We just haven't done it yet, and it'll be probably a little flag. How's my grandson? Bye-bye. Night-night.
Bye, buddy.
Uncle Jarrett. Yeah, bye-bye.
That's Tegan's little boy.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Pretty cute. Pretty cute. Sometimes
Be
too
safe
cute.
driving.
Okay, so it's in the works probably. Eventually.
Well, we're going to, let's see, what was it again?
It's mark somebody as dead that does not have a spouse or child.
Yeah, we still have a little disagreement on how we're going to do that. We have a couple of thoughts. It hasn't bubbled to the top enough to argue about it again.
Okay.
We're spending our time on improving match and search and getting more records out faster and hinting, and we're spending some of our time on that and we're doing some things for the LDS temple side that's going to come out in the next few years, and the shared living, we're working on that. Those are all the things that we're spending the majority of our time on, rather than that.
Okay. Betty Lou, let's see if I can answer this one. I think I can answer this one. We'll see how I can do. He can correct me if we're wrong. She says, how would you enter a child that you know existed and died shortly after birth, but do not have a name or sex? And I think it would be either unknown or unnamed child. And if you have a birth date or any other pertinent information, you would add that.
Yeah, you could put the word unknown in there if you want, or you can put a question mark, like we talked earlier about the question mark. The birth date would be a good thing. The sex, there is
she says unknown. Unknown.
You have to put unknown.
No name and no sex.
Yeah.
You have to give as much data as you've got, but I mean, we understand.
You have to have a name, so you got to put something in there, like
unknown,
baby,
child,
baby or child or something like that, and you got to put in a sex, so you have to put unknown if you don't know, and then dead. But if you have a birth date, that's great.
Yeah.
And then hopefully somewhere down the road there'll be some discovery of some record that may back it up and give it a name.
Okay.
Give it a name.
And
you may want to. Yeah, that's good. So this is died at birth. There's one thing you need to make sure. If it's a stillborn baby, then you need to. There's also other information flag that you need to set in the other information section. You can say add, and stillborn is one of those, and you can just say stillborn is the date.
So there's another thing on that individual line that you tag that baby as a stillborn.
Right, in the other information section. Okay. Not in vitals, but in the other information section.
Sure. Carl asks, are there any plans to add the ability to tag faces in photo memories while zoomed in on large images? So I guess it's because right now he's got.
Yeah, when you zoom in and then you go tagging, then it's not going to do it. I got to go talk on that one. You send me an email on that one.
All right, good question, Carl.
I can't remember if we're redoing how you do tags and how you do portraits and stuff. And I got to go double check, make sure that they're allowing that to happen when you zoom in. I don't know if that would work very well because they probably don't have the capability of doing it right now. Because it's recording just the XY coordinates of that box on that image. And I don't think it's remembering the zoom factor.
Well, and it's hard to get that.
So if you got a little teeny picture of a person, you may want to do that cropping and zooming in some other tool outside of FamilySearch.
And upload it as
a separate image of
that might be. I think
a zoomed in
if I
picture.
had to guess, I would say it's a family photo with a bunch of people.
Yeah, but there are probably little teeny faces.
Probably.
And he wants a bigger face so that he can look.
Or just to be able to tag it inside the group photo.
Yeah.
So it's hard to see. Like for example, if we look at mom's side of the family, right, where she's got 14 aunts and uncles, and you
Yeah.
get the whole family together. It's like 1,000 people. Right?
Yeah.
You get that photo, and sometimes you want to be able to see all those people. I understand where he's coming from. You want to be able to zoom in and get that little tiny face sitting up there in the back corner and say, "That's Uncle Joe,"
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, send that to me. I'll talk to him about they got any thoughts about that.
Okay.
I don't think we'll have any zooming thing, but maybe there's a way for us to stick an arrow there and say, that's Uncle
Yeah.
Wilbur, you know.
See, Carl said, I had a group shot that was several thousand pixels wide.
Yeah.
It's tough with those. And I think the cropping option is pretty good, especially if the file you've got is several thousand pixels. You got to be able to
go to
kind of
some,
chunk. You could even do like sections, right?
Yeah, tool that you
Sections
can zoom in and crop out.
Okay, we're getting close here. I got two more
Okay.
brief ones, and then I think we're gonna have to be done.
Okay.
So Rob, I think we'll be able to get yours, and Joanne. I'm sorry. Joanne, we'll think we'll be able to get yours too. Joanne has a question I think we've answered before. She says, my name doesn't show up in the help section as a local temple and family history consultant. I've checked with the ward clerk, and I'm listed correctly in the ward computer list. How can my name and phone number be listed in that section?
Yeah, you need to, I think that there's a sign-up place for consultants.
Contact support?
Yeah, so contact support and say my consultant stuff is not showing up. There used to be, you had to go to consultant.familysearch.org. I don't know if that thing exists anymore. But
Do you want me to look?
yeah, look, let's look real quick.
What was it?
Consultant.familysearch.org? No, not a W there anymore. Yeah, you're into something else. You kind of hit enter and
Bull pucky, man. Let's see, what was it?
Consultant.familysearch.org. Yeah, okay, it's not it. Yeah, contact support and say, hey, my stuff's not showing up in the as a consultant for my ward on FamilySearch, and
they can
fix that. I can't remember right now how to do that.
But they know.
Yeah, I'll have to go ask them so I get it back in the brain cells.
You got too much stuff in the brain, man.
Too much. It's flowing out.
She said she called, but they told her to check with the ward clerk. Call them back.
Oh, well, make sure your ward clerk has you as
She says he does.
family history consultant.
That's what she said he does. So I would just contact, if it were me, I work in phone support, I would just say, if they told you to do that, the best thing is to just call back.
Call them back and say, the ward clerk's done that.
Yeah.
And then they let them follow up from there.
Yeah, and they have a chart. They have a thing that's like, make sure this is happening, then this is happening.
Well, they'll contact the membership on their side and see what's showing up as.
Exactly. Okay. Rob says, I like the view I can see of someone's tree in Consultant Planner that shows their fan chart codes by country of birth or century of birth. Is there any way to see that view of my own fan chart outside of Consultant Planner?
No. There's been that request, but, I don't know.
I was pretty direct. It was just done.
Yeah, some people have asked about, can the fan chart, the normal fan chart, have some of that, switch it so it has countries of origin, or switch it so it has years, and I don't know. I don't know. Just go see it yourself and put yourself in the Consultant Planner.
There you
and
go.
Look at it there. So I don't know. It's been talked about. It's been requested, but we haven't even considered putting it on the list yet.
Sure. And Beverly, we did answer that question earlier in the video. So if you need further clarification, go ahead.
What was the question?
She asked the same question about how to print a family group sheet without ordinances for non-member families.
You essentially go to settings and preferences.
You click settings. So you go to home page. You see your name in the top right-hand corner. You click on it. Then you click settings. Then you click preferences. And I checked right with this, right on preferences page. You'll see a tag that says display checkbox show LDS template information. You're going to want to uncheck that.
Yeah, and then save the settings.
Uncheck, save the settings at the bottom of the page.
Then you won't see any ordinances on the screen.
Right.
Or
then
any family group sheet will not have ordinances and stuff like that. Okay.
And Rob says he loves a direct answer. I did find out I could put myself into the class.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. Just put yourself in the you see all the stuff you want.
Yep.
Anyway.
Okay, well, folks.
All right. Hey, this has been great. It's been great having you here. I'm sorry again that we were kind of short on that. But we got through all the questions that everybody had from last week, and we even got to answer a bunch of questions that came up on the fly today. I hope that you will continue to enjoy this. Be sure and share this information with others, because because I'm sure there's 20 others around you that are asking these same kind of questions, and I just want to be able to provide answers and help people any way I can. So let them know about the Facebook Lives and tell them to come to Family History Ron and like the page so they get notified when we have one of these things.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the more they come, the more people get their answers answered. Feel better about the product. Feel better about using the system.
More comfortable.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for supporting Family Tree. It's getting better and better. I know there's frustrations with other people changing data, but we'll get better and they'll get better, and it's growing. I mean, it's really growing great.
And it's a great group of people.
Yeah, amazing. We put out these hints, and there was probably, I think we said something like 600,000 persons added to the tree in 1 week from hints, and
it's all good data.
It's all good stuff, and you're doing great work. I really appreciate it all, and thank you for your support. And as always, you can send me an email at ron@familysearch.org for any particular specific questions or concerns or suggestions. I'll get to them. I think because I was sick for about a week and a half, I think I have about 780 something emails behind right now. So,
and let me tell you, folks, he really loves what he does, and he loves being able to answer your questions.
Yeah,
he spends all night as we're watching TV as a family at his desk answering your emails. It's something that he loves to do, and he loves to be in contact with you as a user and to know and understand what you want.
Yeah, and understand where you're struggling and understand where you're running into issues, and then figure out ways to help. So thank you very much. Have a good evening. Our next Facebook Live is planned. We actually sat down and planned it.
Oh, wow.
We wanted to have it before Thanksgiving.
That way you can enjoy your Thanksgiving.
So the next one will be on November the 16th. So mark your calendars. And as we'll get with Tegan, and we'll have her send out a notification, a little bit before, a few days before. As always, the form to submit your questions is always there at the top. You can fill it in at any time you want. And we always just start from the most
first come, first
serve, and just go through the list and stuff. So have a good evening, and we'll see you next time on the, what did I say, 16th?
Yeah. Just basically 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
In a nutshell. We're going to do it not Thanksgiving, the week before.
The week before.
So that we have Thanksgiving for you, so you can enjoy it with your family, so that we can spend
and
time
Thanksgiving for me, too.
Right. Because we're all about families.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night. Bye-bye.